Hey guys, we're here with Jake from Reflections, and I should have thought of better.
My addiction to tearing myself apart.
On the album cover and on a lot of the promotional pictures that you guys have been putting on Facebook, there's the symbol in the middle of all of it. Can you explain what that is?
Okay.
Yeah. That way I don't have my hand in your face.
It's kanji, which is just writing in Japanese. The translation for it is king. Properly, on Facebook it always says Wang, which is super cool. But it means king. It's the 3 lines. Is something along the lines of representative of heaven, like earth and hell, and the line coming down through all 3 represents like you being in control of all of them.
Okay, so it's like a Japanese like character?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Cool. Alright, so then for the overall album, what would you say the theme overall is? And then sort of like for each individual song, but mostly for the whole thing, like what ties it all together?
The theme, I wouldn't say that the record necessarily has a theme. I guess the closest thing I could say is that it's like a music, it's a diary in a sense. It's every song relates to a very specific emotion and period of time in my life, and a lot of the lyrics, I know I've said this in multiple places before, but a lot of the lyrics I've been working on and writing since 2011. And they just never fit in our music before because our music was always so technical and, you know, there wasn't room for any real heart or character in it. You know what I mean? It was so shreddy, and doing what we're doing now, you know, and just going about the writing process differently really allowed us to be more of an honest, real band. So.
Okay. And the new album has like actual clean singing in it. How did you decide that that was something that you wanted to do? And what did you think the fans were going to think when you first put that in there?
At first, you know, with the fantasy effect, I just was young, sucked at screaming, recorded all the vocals in an apartment. Literally, for the fantasy effect, every one of those songs vocally was tracked within 30 minutes.
Wow. Yeah,
literally. It was like, go to Patty's house, sit in his apartment, scream until the neighbors came knocking on the door and were like, stop. So, and we tried to slowly introduce singing into our music, because on Exist, my friend Becca has a singing part in one of the songs, you know, and that's like, we'll see how people feel about it. You know, she's not a part of the band. We'll see if they're like, this is lame. And we also introduced the like pitch screaming with that record, which is incorporating notes. And, you know, with this one, we just kind of decided, you know, it was like in Exist too. I didn't record vocals in a studio. I recorded them in our other guitarist's basement, which sucked because he just rushed me the whole time. And you know, this was our first time actually going to a studio and getting to like experiment and like work with people that were encouraging us and being like, no, try it. You know what I mean? And do it. That sounds sick. And so, just always trying to move forward. So.
Okay. You mean you're not? Are you gonna pull like a of Mice and Men / Bring Me the Horizon on everybody?
Well, the thing of, like, for me personally about writing metal or heavy music in general is that if you're not able to put the proper emotion and meaning behind it, you shouldn't do it. Like, I'm never gonna be the dude that writes metal music about religion or like hating the government. Or like, you know, I'm not going to try and force these angry lyrics when they're not there. And like, I went through this period of time in my life that allowed me to write that kind of music. And as of right now, I'm not in that frame of mind. Like, we're writing music right now for our next record. And it's, we already kind of have our next album planned out. It's, anyone who likes The Color Clear is really going to enjoy it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So
We're not ditching like the metal aspect of our music yet, but
okay.
it'll come to show what our plan is in the future.
Okay. So the lyrics on The Color Clear are way darker than your previous 2 releases, and I know you just said that you were actually writing songs for this kind of since 2011. So I guess sort of like where did those come from, and how come they're on this one compared to before?
They just came from nights, alone, nights, a lot of time. Like I mentioned before, LSD played a huge part in the writing process for this album for me. Not in the sense it was like, I'm going to trip out and write some music. It was like I was going through a really rough time. And if you read into it at all, you can see that LSD has been used to treat people with post-traumatic stress disorders, anxiety, and depression. And it really helped me a lot after going through a really bad 6-year relationship. My entire childhood was miserable. And then, teen years, I just tried blacking myself out with drugs and everything the whole time. And then, as soon as I was trying to kind of pull myself out of that, the house fire happened and I lost one of my best friends. And, I needed help and I couldn't get it from anyone but myself, really. So that was how I did that. And that's kind of where a lot of the lyrics shaped themselves.
Okay. So sort of touching on the 6-year relationship thing, how many of your songs do you write with a specific person in mind? Because a lot of your lyrics make it seem like there's a rich backstory that really inspires all of it.
Every song that I write is about either myself or someone. Not necessarily all the same person. I'd say most of the music I write is about 3 or 4 people, and I don't need to drop names or anything, but I feel music should be personal. I feel music should be an expression of things that you can't get out any other way, and just it's an outlet. So yeah, the music is all extremely personal.
Okay. This makes this next question even more interesting, what you said before about how you guys are kind of gonna start shying away from metal, maybe, but this album has some black metal parts on it, which is like probably one of the more extreme types of metal. Yeah. So what made you pretty much just like, where did that come from, and what made you want to put black metal parts? Like, I never would have saw that coming before.
One thing that, like, when this band started, we wanted to be more of a deathcore band. We were young, that's what was going on at the time, and tried doing a lot of lows and a lot of highs. And Francis, our bassist, actually is the one who told me, don't use your lows and your highs that much, because you're just going to overdo it. Use it more as a weapon. And I always took that to heart a lot. So, like, on Exist, there's highs once, and on the new album, there's highs once, and there's really not a lot of lows. And because it's people will ask me too, like, what's your screaming style? And it's like, you just said it, like, I'm just screaming, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that just came, we always want to, like, do something different musically. We don't want to write the same album. We don't want to sound the same. Because there's a difference between, like, writing different music and having it sound a little different than changing your style.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we sound different, but it's still us.
Yeah,
so,
you could tell. It's like the same band the whole way through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of different. We want to cover a lot of ground as musicians, and that's what we want to do.
Because at the beginning of Amulet is probably where I'd say is the most like deathcore-ish vocals, and
yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was super cool. In the future, do you think that you'll put more of those extreme highs and lows in there?
I would say, like I was talking to you about how we're writing right now, the way it's shaping is that it's literally going to be the heaviest music that we've ever written, along with some of the most, like, the next phase of our band, you know what I mean? So we're going to, while we may not be writing a lot of angry, dark metal anymore, what we will be putting out will be the darkest and heaviest things we've done. So yeah, probably.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to sort of like questions that encompass the band as a whole. Recently, Charles left. Do you guys have a new replacement for him, or are you looking for a new permanent one?
We love being a four-piece.
Really?
We love it.
Okay.
Because the band started with myself, Patrick, and Francis. And we've always been the core three. We've always been together. And when we saw Nick's audition because we were going on our first full U.S. tour, and our drummer at the time couldn't do it. So Nick auditioned online, and we toured with him for a month. You know, he just came from New York, and we had never met him before, and just had the best time. He was better than our drummer, and you know, that just felt right. So now that it is the four of us, we also have our photographer and our merch guy now, who's Tyler, and honestly, he's the closest thing to a fifth member that we need. He's our boy. We're a family, so.
So do you guys play his part like through the PA system, or?
We have everything on a ghost track.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
It's still full.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So, like we kind of talked about, the new album isn't quite as technical as the other one. And you've talked about you guys moving away from that. Is that sort of like a whole band decision, like where you guys want to go creatively?
We are all very sick of the shred. The shred is annoying. The shred doesn't have substance.
Okay.
You know, it's one thing. You know, there's still solos in the music, and honestly, like people may not hear it because it's not as flashy.
Yeah.
But the music is still very complicated in the new record.
Oh yeah, I would like. It's for sure still way more technical than most bands.
I mean, and the thing about it is that, you know, a lot of faster guitar players will tell you that the hardest part about playing fast music like that, you know, technical music, is slowing it down and playing it, you know, slow. Because, you know, you get the muscle memory to do this, and you can do this all day.
Yeah.
But to actually be like, hey, what are these notes that I'm playing? Like, let's create a vibe and an atmosphere. That's where, like, real, like, you have to be artistic to really capture that, so.
Okay, so one of your recent Facebook posts from your page talked about how after this tour, people won't be seeing you for a while, and just as a fan of your band, that kind of worried me. Can you elaborate a little bit?
I deal with really, really deep-rooted personal problems, and I have very bad depression. I have very bad anxiety. I don't think very highly of myself. I don't have self-esteem. I don't have an ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I see people walking around in this industry being cocky and, like, you know, brushing people off, like whatever, it's really disappointing for me. But as far as like me secluding myself from people, that's just something that I have always done. But I may or may not be moving away from my hometown to spend some time alone, just trying to maybe put some of my own personal life back together. But like I said in the post, that won't affect Reflection's touring schedule.
And you're not going to be leaving the band.
I wouldn't leave the band because the band is one of the only outlets that I have to rid myself of feeling that way.
Okay, yeah. Because I saw you guys are touring Japan in like May or April next year?
Yep, we'll be going to Japan.
That's pretty awesome.
We actually got that tour from a Facebook message. Yeah. Patty, we were just sitting at Anthony from After the Burial's house. And Patty's just like, oh, do you guys want to go to Japan? And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, I just got a message from this guy from Cyclamen, and he wants us to go with Protest the Hero. We're like, oh, okay. So that was awesome.
That's awesome, dude. Okay, so recently you also talked about a side project called Omiah, right? Why did you make that side project? And the music that comes out of it is way different than Reflections. So can you just talk about that?
After the house fire happened, I just not in a good place, and yeah, like there was a lot of nights that would go by where I thought that might be the last night, you know what I mean? And I found this record that Nick actually had. Nick's mom gave me a laptop after the fire, and it was Nick's old laptop, and it had some music on it. And I found this artist called Helios and an album called Engia. And one night I was
Are they a metal band?
No,
No, okay.
far from it. You should really. Oh no, Helios. Yeah.
Okay.
So I listened to that record, and I was on LSD, and my entire perspective, my entire world flipped upside down, and I had never felt anything like that from music before. Like when I listened to that record, I was captured by it, and that's when I realized that there's so much more to music than anger, and that's what's mainly expressed through metal. So Omiah for me was a way for me to literally take other things that I was feeling that I felt I couldn't express through metal music, and to write it, construct it the way that I wanted to. And it's just something that's really therapeutic for me.
And you did all of the recording and producing of that stuff too. Would you want to try and do that stuff for Reflections in the future, mix and master Reflections music?
I wouldn't mind learning how to work with more acoustic instruments, and producing them in a sense to make them metal. A lot of the Omiah stuff is acoustic instruments. But to be completely honest, no. I love Machine Shop, where we went to record. I've wanted to record there ever since the band started. I wanted to work with Will, and we met Randy LeBeouf out there. And I talked about how Tyler is with us now, and he's kind of a part of our team. That's how I feel about that studio.
Okay.
It's
Is
amazing.
that where you're doing the new stuff?
More than likely.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Where is the new stuff? In the timeline of the whole process, where?
We're in the first drafts of everything right now.
Okay.
But we were trying to write about 22 songs before we go back to the studio, and right now we have about 8.
So do you think next year would be too early, or maybe?
We will record when our label sends us back to the studio.
Okay.
This cycle will be 18 months, and then we'll probably be shipped off to the studio, where we'll record for a month, and then that'll be put out 4 or 5 months after it's done. And we're literally as a band thinking about 6 years in the future right now. So
cool, man. Well, it's good to know you guys will be around that long.
Yeah, we're figuring it out.
All right, that's the end of the questions. Do you have anything that you want to expand on? Say anything to your fans?
I would just say I had actually brought this up in an interview that I did a couple days ago, but I've been going through a super hard time recently, just with a lot of things going on in my personal life, and around the time when I posted that on Facebook, I will just say, appreciate the people that you have in your life that care about you and that show you that they care about you. And music helps me through so many problems in my life that I didn't, and sometimes still don't, think I'll be able to get through. So always turn to music and just being artistic and creative before you turn to anything else.
All right, thank you. Jake from Reflections. Make sure you guys pick up their new album, The Color Clear, and look into his side project, Omiah. All right, thanks for watching, guys.